next move to statin intolerance. What is it? Well, statin intolerance is exactly what the name implies. It's being unable to take statins for whatever reason. Sometimes it's the inability to take a specific dose of the drug, not getting to a dose that gets you to your cholesterol goal. But for the most part, it's actually not being able to take it at all because you have some reaction from the medication. Statin intolerance is actually relatively rare. If you look at the number of if you look at people taking statins, the estimates vary, but somewhere around 5 to 10, maybe as high as 20% in some studies are statin intolerant or have difficulties with statins, which means 80, 90, perhaps 95% of people tolerate statins perfectly well and feel nothing. So the vast majority of people do well on these medications. The issue is that because there are so many people with high cholesterol, even if a small portion of them can't take the medications because they feel poorly on them, it's actually an awful lot of people affected in absolute numbers by statin intolerance. What are the things that people feel? Most frequently, it's going to be muscles or joint side effects. They get achy. Occasionally, people feel that their cognition is affected. They're not quite as sharp. Sometimes we see liver side effects. Over the long haul, we can see an increase in diabetes risk. But honestly, there are many others that people report that are much less common. Sleep disturbance, digestive issues, hair changes, lot of different things that may or may not be related to statins, but they just happen to occur at around the time that someone started the medication and it's attributed to the drug. Okay, how do we manage statin intolerance? Obviously, it's very hard to get a patient to take a medication if they don't feel well on it. So the first thing to know is that sometimes it may not be the drug, right? Feeling achy. Well, are you feeling achy because you're on a statin, or are you feeling achy because you started a new exercise routine? Right? And sometimes it requires stopping and starting and stopping and starting the medication several times to figure out whether what you're feeling is truly related to the drug. Another thing to keep in mind is that there's more than one statin on the market, right? There are multiple different statins that are available. Lipitor, Crestor, atorvastatin, rosuvastatin in generic terms, simvastatin, Livalo or lovastatin, pravastatin. I mean, the list goes on. And each of these drugs at one point had a patent because it is biochemically distinct from all the others. Now, all statins work in the liver. That is where cholesterol is produced. They work on the enzyme HMG-CoA reductase, which is the enzyme responsible for making cholesterol, especially in those cholesterol producers, right? So they all work kind of on the same basic mechanism in the liver, but they can have very different side effect profiles because they are biochemically distinct. So just because you've had a side effect with one statin doesn't mean you will with another. The other thing to keep in mind is remember that spectrum, right? There's producers, but there's also absorbers that respond to food. And how much of a food response you will have is unknown until we try it, which is where Step 1 Foods, fits in so elegantly because it allows you to test it in a very scientific way, right? The food specifically designed to help lower cholesterol, specific doses of nutrients delivered in 2 servings a day. So there's no guesswork involved. It's like, okay, you're eating foods that affect cholesterol reabsorption. How much of a benefit do you get? And if you see a significant reduction in LDL because you're eating a specific way, guess what? You need less medication to kind of, get to goal. And one of the things that's very clear is that statin side effects are dose related. So they're more likely to happen the higher dose you take, which is why it's so important to, whether or not you're on a statin or not, to eat in a way that helps reduce cholesterol, because number one, you can reduce cholesterol just with nutrition, but also you can help your medications work better, which means you are much less likely to develop a side effect.